Hello.
Hello.
Awesome.
Hey everyone.
It is nice to see everyone here. You all look wonderful, my brothers. It's been so long since I've saw you all in person, and I was just so excited to see you guys in DKG Con in Slovenia. Of course, my heart was filled. So I just want to say welcome everyone to our first, well, I guess the first time I'm back assisting with this beautiful part of the OriginTrail ecosystem. It's been some time. So I just want to say thank you for having me, everyone. So yes, welcome back to the On TRAC podcast. I don't want to say replacing Jonathan because that is impossible. He's a special guy. But I am here to assist in his footsteps in the official OriginTrail ecosystem podcast. So this is a podcast where we focus on progress, transparency, and building the OriginTrail decentralized knowledge graph, particularly for real-world use. And I'm glad that we're here for today's episode. Of course, at this time, we just returned from DKG Con 2025. We just completed our global hackathon. So really, the only things that I have in my mind is how's the team doing? How are you guys? And of course, we can dive into more of the takeaways from DKG Con 2025. But for now, let's just keep it light. Tomaž, Branimir, Žiga, how are you folks doing? How's the recovery process? And how was the hackathon as well as DKG Con 2025 for you?
I don't know who. I'll go first. Of course, I think it was firstly great to have you there. It was fantastic to see you live in person again. It was great to hang out, albeit a little bit shortly. But the DKG Con brought some fantastic crowds, both from the side of the users of the DKG, from the side of the up-and-coming developers to the DKG, from the side of just very, very interesting audience, both in person as well as online. And I don't feel there was a recovery necessary. It seems that it's only speeding up towards the end of the year, and kind of pushing towards through the new year as well. So exciting times, and good to see you. Good to see everyone.
All right, I don't know who's gonna take the question next. Perfect response, by the way. I mean, yes, I feel like I'm still recovering. I don't know about you guys, but then again, I am jet lagged, so maybe that's probably what it is. So Žiga, I don't know if you wanted to take the reins next. How's everything going with you after DKG Con 2025?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to plug in this mic. Not sure if it's working. I still remember the days when people were complaining mostly about my mic, but today it isn't working. It was wonderful. I mean, as it's in a way, it was a culmination of 1 year's efforts on, based on the fundamentals that we have built together in the past years. And there's been plenty of things that were put on track as you've witnessed and heard from the speakers themselves coming there and talking about different let's say advancements, as well as applications based on the DKG, from decentralized science to governments using it, to basically newcomers which are going to be using it for many exciting things, Umanitek. And it was really lovely to see so many people on in the same spot, putting the rails, the trust rails, basically on track. And this year has been, especially important for me personally, as we also got my first kid on track, basically, proverbially speaking. I became a father, so it was really lovely to see all people coming together. And my youngster, she was also able to see what's being built on the DKG, although I'm not sure how much she's able to follow so far, probably not a lot, but next year, hopefully, the kid will be able to consume, an even more scalable and even more exciting ecosystem with her own eyes. So overall, it's been super exciting, and I'm really looking forward to bring everything that has been discussed and presented at the DKG Con to the next level.
Awesome. I must say it really filled my heart to see the little one in person myself. After all these years, we talked about it and it's finally here. So I'm very excited about that. Branimir, my friend, don't sit over there all silent, looking all advanced in technology. We want to hear from you as well. What's going on, my friend? How do you feel about DKG Con 2025? About all the work being done? What has you excited?
Yeah, it was incredible at DKG Con. It was also incredible the year before, and it has some special kind of energy at the conference that is, I would say, way better than most of the conferences, if not all of the conferences I've been to. I am, of course, biased because it's the conference we organize, but I invite everybody to come and check how biased I am by joining the conference next time. We saw some great projects being built with the technology. I'm sure we're going to touch on that as well in a bit on the podcast. But things like DeSci and tackling deepfakes and building even traditionally in supply chains and all kinds of interesting even governments joining in. It was incredible. But also just the vibe is always awesome because you can see that the ecosystem is growing in such a beautiful way where people are really behind this idea with their heart. So folks like from Amazon and Orteca, for example, and Oxford Pharmagenesis, they've been telling the story of OriginTrail way better than we do, actually, which is what I love about the whole thing, and I'm super excited. And yeah, it's a lot has been going on in parallel with the conference. We've been building quite a lot and solving quite a bit of stuff. Meanwhile, we also had growing pains, I would say, that are somewhat painful but good. Yeah, it's a lot is going on. A lot is going on. Also, in personal life, as Žiga mentioned, there's a bunch of cool stuff, but all knock on wood, positive things. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to next year and the next DKG Con. I'm really excited to see what happens next time, because previous DKG Con, we launched the first version of DKG Edge Node, and the whole collective neurosymbolic AI was just an idea. At this DKG Con, 1 year later, you could see it built on actually the new version of DKG Edge Node, which incorporates the latest things in AI, such as MCP as a core standard and many other things. So to see how much has been done in a year, it's really impressive. And if we're going from like a high-level concept that people resonate with to actually things working and working in production is a dream of every engineer. So I'm super happy about it.
Yeah, I shared very similar sentiments. I mean, even though this year I was more of a spectator and a support, I mean, just being in the background, seeing people come with technology. For example, I'm going to name drop Ben because he specifically bought a laptop just for this presentation, just to spin up a node. Like, I'm like, this is some commitment here, dude. You just walk into a store and buy a brand new Mac just to spin up an OriginTrail node, right? So, like, it felt amazing seeing everyone put their best efforts, to, first of all, to learn, but also for the grand reason, which is proliferating the OriginTrail technology. I saw Ben's presentation in the past, and I saw some new slides started popping up in his presentation. He has the DKG in there in his slides. So to see the DKG becoming a part of most, I guess, standard practice, it's becoming a standard thing you just mentioned in somebody's tech stack. It's actually so amazing and rewarding, infinitely rewarding after all of these years of work. So congratulations. I say that it's a very successful event. And as you said, even with, even growing pains are important in learning stepping stones to greatness, right? So awesome stuff, very well done. And on the team of the DKG Con, since we're already speaking so heavily about it, I think we can start peeling back a bit more of the layers of that event, right? So let's dive a little bit into what I guess we would consider of course, every project there was impactful, but of course there were some that we would love to highlight as well too. I know personally, people from the Caribbean who were watching online, they actually messaged my phone. They were like, dude, Dr. Kim, that presentation, medicine is changing forever, dude. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. We're doing that. So some of these technologies resonate deeply with different people all across the globe for different reasons, right? So if I were to say, Tomaž, Žiga, Branimir, which projects or product or ecosystems really has you excited coming out from DKG Con 2025? Don't all scream now. Don't get too excited.
Yeah, I gave the gentlemanly room for someone to take the reins. They don't want it. It's no worries. Tough question. I know why they're mulling over. There's been plenty of stuff going on. But I mean, if I gotta spearhead one, I'll start with Umanitek. I think stuff that's being built in that company is pretty insane, both from the side of just the assembly of individuals that are gathering around the company, but as well as how the DKG is being used to address some of the biggest pain points we have in the globe today, kind of coming into the AI revolution, not knowing what's true, what's not, kind of presenting the current zeitgeist as the generational moment for us to decide the right path, take that red pill, and then really peel away the misunderstandings that the technology can introduce in our daily lives. That's so important because that's the only way also to bring artificial intelligence solutions from kind of failing a lot and being in a situation where they're not as production ready as they could have been, towards something that is trusted and safe and that we can feel comfortable interacting with. And what's been kind of showcased on the DKG Con with the Umanitek Guardian being placed there as a basically something that people can already apply for today to become a part of the red team to test out, but also to become a part of the waitlist for becoming users of the Guardian is something that's so powerful because it's a very much needed product to protect ourselves against the impersonations, against catfishing, against financial fraud, scams, and just have a safer internet going forward. So yeah, I mean, there was plenty of stuff that happened at DKG Con, but if I gotta choose just one, I'll go with Umanitek. Both I think Chris did a wonderful job presenting the backdrop on the opening keynote, as well as well, I think we covered some very exciting updates on the session where we were speaking about the Guardian agent. So yeah, plenty of very exciting updates coming in Umanitek's future, I feel, and it's something that's definitely showed the way that of how DKG can be used for a societal problem at the internet scale and solve it very efficiently. So I love that one.
I think that is probably the perfect response, especially the ending there at internet scale, because we're looking, we know that AI will produce more content, dwarf the amount of content humans can ever produce or think of producing, right? So whatever solution that has to protect or support humanity needs to truly be internet scale. And by internet scale, we're talking about 100%. Supporting the world's data, right?
100%. I know, and it's like a, it's OriginTrails and Umanitek's bringing OriginTrail to that mainstream stage. Even recently, I don't know if you were on the Christmas Eve spending time to check out the TV. If you're in US, you might have caught the glimpse of Umanitek also on CNN. So Laurie Siegel was going over what are the trends of artificial intelligence in the coming period, and of course that the deep fakes, the impersonations, the ease of tampering with an identity of an individual online came to be as one of the top things that to watch for, and Umanitek being featured as the solution that can really start addressing it. So I think that internet scale shows both the impact potential, but also kind of a testament to choosing technology like DKG is there to showcase that we're ready for some big strides. And yeah, again, sorry for double dipping on this on the topic, but you made a segue here that I couldn't pass over. So yeah, I'm excited.
No, you're just fine. It's just such a relevant topic, right? It's just so powerful and it's just so applicable at this time that I think it's good that you're excited to talk more about this topic. I think that also in my personal spaces, for example, as a Christian in the church community, I think that people are waking up generally to AI, but they still don't really understand like how it's dangerous to them. Like most of them just see, oh, hey, AI is dangerous, and they see it from the movies, but they don't really understand, okay, how is this actually going to change my life? And then the other question, the other statement I see a lot is, well, if they don't know what to do, right? If they don't know how it's going to affect them, they don't know how do I protect myself, right? So something like Umanitek just coming and saying, hey, connect your profile. This is exactly the kind of rails we want to see, getting the retail and regular man into protecting the identity in the age of AI, right? Umanitek is that flick of the switch. So I'm very excited to talk about that actually. Because
and also, when you are in those conversations yourself or others, Umanitek.ai, like there's literally time to engage is now, right? So, to both protect yourself and to become a part of the protective tissue of the entire, what's called the digital immune system, right? So very, very much timely thing when those types of discussions to come up, to invite someone to, hey, like here's something that you can actually, get involved with.
So, and one thing I wanted to mention as well on this topic, because you brought up internet scale, this is something that is kind of, I would say, I'm not sure if I want to label it as passionate on his heart, but Branimir has mentioned in the past that artificial intelligence is really failing in the mission critical space. This is enterprise implementations. Artificial intelligence is truly failing in terms of hallucinations and such. So if you want, you could just dive just briefly into why is OriginTrail just working? Why is AI and mission critical spaces and OriginTrail working? Why is this such an effective thing that most enterprises can't seem to understand that OriginTrail has it working? All right. So what's that disconnect, or why is OriginTrail so brilliant there?
From a long history of working with enterprises, I would say some of it comes down to the way just people approach new technology. Sometimes a little bit maybe jumping into it too fast, or just not thinking it through as much as they would normally, because they want to get on a bandwagon very quickly. So it's one of the things that tends to happen, and it happened with AI, it happened with blockchain. I remember at the early stages when we were speaking to enterprises how blockchain is not enough to solve problems in supply chains, for example, and that how it's more of a thing that rhymes than it's that it's able to solve everything. It was unusual because there were companies buying these private blockchain implementations. Like they would set up a couple of nodes and they would send some transactions on the chain, and whoever sold them the consultancy was like, here you go, you got what you wanted. Do you have a blockchain? You have a blockchain. Does it do its thing? It kind of does its thing. And then they quite often didn't see the value, but because blockchain wasn't the tech for it. So a lot of the companies kind of run into it. And the second point of it is like, what is really the secret sauce of solving a problem? And obviously, in our world, the key answer here is knowledge. And you immediately can kind of start getting into a terrain where just as a private closed blockchain wouldn't be able to solve something global, you could immediately think of, can an LLM that is amazing, trained on a lot of different things, know what happened in my company yesterday if it's not exposed to the data about what happened in the company yesterday, or where my train is, or what happened with the food, or what's the latest scientific research, or the deep fakes that popped up. Basically what it comes down to is, if you build AI without a very good way of managing data and knowledge and giving it access to that, then you're very likely going to fail. That's, at least from today's perspective, very obvious. So that's where OriginTrail has been always starting. We always start with the knowledge. What do we have? What can we build on? And then we give people tools to take the knowledge and to basically make knowledge assets out of it. And those knowledge assets then generate value, especially in the context of using it with today's AI. So it's not that LLMs are failing, it's that people are using them in somewhat wrong way. And there's some good ways that people are using them. For example, for coding. I know a lot of engineers won't agree with me when I say this, but I think it's a superpower tool. Of course, it makes mistakes, but so do we as people. And of course, it's not perfect. But I know that just the other day, I was able to build something that would probably taken me or even a couple of people like a year, and I could do it in a matter of hours. And yeah, of course, there's it's not probably perfect, but it's able to build a bunch of great stuff exactly because the tools have been built so that it can access code, and it was trained on a lot of different code, and it can test. So the LLM in that case is in a really good place because it has access to a Git repository and a bunch of very well organized, effectively knowledge. Code is a form of knowledge, if you will. It just particularly structured for a particular use case. And so in that regard, if you want to do something like science, you also have to structure knowledge in the right form for the right use case. So it's one thing to represent a molecule in some computer understandable form, and a totally other thing to write Shakespeare. So basically what it comes down to is the knowledge. And once you apply that across an organization, that's what you will hear for people from DKG Con like Ben Clinch from Orteca and Charles. They've been in this world for such a long time. Once you do that, you actually can unlock a lot of different things. So that's the order of things that you generally need to do. But even then, it's really important how well can you trust this knowledge. So it doesn't end with the knowledge. The knowledge is, in a way, we should observe knowledge as a much higher order, hierarchical structure than just data, because data can be a stream. A set of tweets around the topic. It can be a bunch of different things, but it's kind of a somewhat disorganized or semi-organized thing. But it's a question if, should you trust somebody saying that the earth is flat in a tweet? That's, something that is obviously up to somebody who's using that, but I wouldn't say this is knowledge. This is just data. Somebody said something. When we get to the level of knowledge, though, then we can actually get to the means to assess the truthfulness of those statements in the data, and that's where graphs help a lot. They've been built for this, and blockchains help a lot because they allow us to root integrity in both in the sense of immutability, but also in the sense of trusting what source was actually attributed to certain statements. So you're like, it's a huge difference actually. So if you just use the data and apply AI with it, limited impact, and it's, I would even say, risky. But if you do knowledge plus LLMs, if you do knowledge graphs plus LLMs, particularly in combination with the foundation of the blockchain, you're on the right track. That's at least what we've seen. It's not us just theorizing about this. We've seen that being implemented across various different industries, and that's why OriginTrail doesn't have this failure rate of 90+% that the general industry has. Quite on the contrary, it's a success rate of 90+% because we do things, we believe, the right way.
And I think that was clearly demonstrated throughout DKG Con 2025, actually. As someone who isn't, I would say, I guess I would say I'm in the space now, but as someone who was not born into not such extreme knowledge graph knowledge, going to school for this thing every year, right? It's still from DKG Con 2025. I think everyone, even if you have expertise or not, you came away understanding that, okay, currently enterprises are using probabilistic systems to try to get deterministic results, which itself is a problem, right? For example, if I'm in a military context, I need to do some particular operation. I can't say, well, we think it's there. We need to know it's there, right? So I guess when you combine the power of LLMs and its ability to guess and hallucinate, and you then combine the knowledge graph, which gives it more restrictive capabilities, you're able to then fine tune something to get something that's more mission critical ready. And that's the power of OriginTrail. If I at least that's what I took away from DKG 2025. Is that clear to say or accurate to say?
I would say yes. I mean, it's a very, very important point, and it reminds me, the way you said it reminds me of I know people say we shouldn't anthrop for what's okay, my English is not that good that I can pronounce this so easily. Anthropomorphize AI. So basically think of AI as human, but in a way, in many ways, I think it's not wrong, especially in it making mistakes and so on. And when we build systems in the pre-AI world, we were building them, for example, planes are Byzantine fault tolerant. Every element of a plane, there's like two others, so that one can, a sensor can die, and there's two more sensors that are going to feed the data to the plane that is incredibly necessary, right? So, and all these procedures. So basically, you need to build guardrails around the AI, and just as we need around people or any other system, which is where Guardian is a really great example, because you can look at it applying AI in the right way, right, to tackle problems of AI.
Yeah. Awesome. Listen, I am absolutely in love with the Umanitek technology. I have also applied to become a red teamer, so I'm just waiting for my response. Chris told me I'm in. I'm waiting. But again, this is a really impactful implementation. I'm really excited about it. And Žiga, I want to swap the mic over to you actually on the same Umanitek topic, because of course we've just seen that Umanitek has hit the stage on CNN. But there's a lot of growth that took place in the network as a result of Umanitek, especially considering some of the goals, the milestones from last year. I think it was in 2021 or 22. Someone said the goals are someday in the future we'll be doing 100,000 publishing of assets per day. And we blew that out the water, right? So I would love for you to talk more about this. How do you see that the DKG has grown in the ability to put knowledge onto this network?
Yeah, actually, it has already reached to 100,000 last year. So that was the record of 2024. This year, this month, actually, it blessed over 50 million, so 50 million knowledge assets per day. But of course, that's not the only metric. The way we measure how good we're getting at what we do is basically how are we able to scale trust? Because this is basically the capital that is needed in a nowadays world and is becoming scarce. And we're living in the overproduction of knowledge generally, and the decentralized knowledge graph should be, or OriginTrail overall should be, an agent, should assume an agency of producing quality knowledge in this overproduction of knowledge. So it's not just about the efficiency, the scale at which we can produce knowledge, and this is obviously increasing and will keep on increasing, but mostly is, our vision and our aim should be to scale trust in this world. And it all starts with trust, basically. The systems of yesterday, they are based on, let's say, the so-called data, information, knowledge, wisdom pyramid. We used to use this pyramid to explain how do we get to knowledge from data, information, and then from knowledge to wisdom. But what OriginTrail is unique at is that it adds another layer, which is basically not the layer on top, but it's a fundamental layer. It's a trust layer. Instilling many different technologies and making them interoperable amongst each other. And when doing so, you're not just scaling trust within a single organization, but in the concert of organizations and even governments. Contrasting this, let's say, to some of the companies that are like growing like crazy, but they're growing on an unhealthy, untrusted basis. Perhaps Palantir is one of the companies that is good to mention here, as OriginTrail, which is basically not a company, it's an ecosystem, is clearly distinguished from the likes of Palantir because it instills user sovereignty by instilling also trust in the knowledge, giving users, companies, and even governments ways to be in control of their own destiny. So at the end of the day, it's about still being free of the shackles that are being put on people. And we basically live in a world of a trust collapse. We live in a world of model collapse, where basically unverified knowledge with not clear lineage of information is being used to train AI models. And in turn, these AI models are becoming less and less useful, basically. And this is where and why companies and users are coming to OriginTrail, because they see that as a result of this inclusivity, basically, that is derived from integrity and interoperability between different systems, they're able to basically seize back control, because there's a realization, and I think nothing reflects that better than the stock market. The AI companies will likely keep on growing in value, but the thing is, the rest of the market isn't. So why is that the case? It's basically the case because there are two things that obviously matter in the new world. It's chips and ontologies. Chips, obviously, you see NVIDIA growing, and it will likely keep on being the behemoth. But on the flip side, we have ontologies, we have knowledge, and we need to make sure. Someone is telling me that they can barely hear me. Let me get closer to my mic. So basically what we need to do is we need to give people and companies back their keys to their knowledge. So trusted knowledge, but at the same time, ownership of the knowledge is very important here. And at the DKG Con, I was really amazed by what was shown by the builders, as well as some of the most reputable companies in pharma, by a state representative even. So double clicking, let's say, on pharma, we had Oxford Pharma Genesis that discussed how DKG is used in medical AI to advance not just the trust and knowledge that is being shared amongst different entities, but also the control over the knowledge, how the DKG is advancing user sovereignty in terms of users still being able to be in possession of the knowledge. So it's really important to take that into account when we're talking about the overall network growth, because there's this third element which is very important besides integrity of the data and interoperability that DKG is instilling. It's also inclusiveness. Without inclusiveness, without people being able to participate in this knowledge economy of today, not just tomorrow, where the whole world is basically going to fail. The society is going to fail. So we need to ensure that we onboard people, we onboard students, we onboard developers, we onboard even governments, so that the value from this new knowledge economy is not going to reside only in the hands of a lucky few, 5 companies, if you will, or 3 major big states controlled mostly by oligarchs, but that this value will rather be distributed amongst people, amongst companies. It might sound a little bit as a communist manifesto, but it really isn't. It's really about building rails that allow people to participate, because we have two choices. We can either let it all slide to the 5 companies, so all the value is going to be accrued in those hands, or we can establish the rails and have everything be based on 3 values, which is interoperability, integrity, and inclusiveness, and have more people be not just be retaining control over their information, data, knowledge, but also be able to grow wealth which is at the end of the day what also the aim of this new development phase is, Metcalfe convergence chapter. And yeah, this is how this is where the main question basically lies in the, not just how do we scale the network, but how do we scale trust. And that's one of the let's say high level North Star objectives with OriginTrail. And it's very positive to see that, you know, some of the predictions basically came to fruition within this year, such as, you know, Umanitek coming to life, and being supported by basically global giants and some of the most well-known thinkers of today's world, like Azaraskin, and you know, people that are behind
Bill as well. Bill shared
as
his
well.
sentiments
There's
on
there's so many I cannot even count. But the point is, things are moving in a good direction with the good people that are capable of fighting a good fight. And the good thing is, it's not just about single company or couple of companies. It's about, you know, big consortia, companies that are supporting some of the, you know, biggest corporations in pharmaceutical industry, and so on. So even within the industries that seem to be a little bit tainted by, you know, different discussions about medicines and so on, it seems that OriginTrail can bring like kind of a revolution from within, so that the trust is yet again instilled in the critical sectors such as pharma and so on.
I second that, and I think that one of the biggest points that kind of encapsulates all that you said in one sentence, and it's from yourself, I think, or Tomaž, at the DKG Con, when you folks were talking about the world model. You said the world model should be built by the world. You know, it's not just one person or company that should be building this world model or building AI. Whatever that AI will have an impact across all of society, all of humanity. So really and truly, all of humanity and all of society should be participating in the development of this technology. So that pretty much, yes, I second that. And I also see the scalability of the network myself, being someone who's been here since we were doing, I remember when people were excited when we did like 10,000 publishings in a week or something. I was like, people were going crazy, right? So it's just nice to see the network grow from those baby phases to more a giant now. You know, we can really hold some numbers in there, and that's exciting. So we've been chatting for quite some time, and I know right now I can feel it. There's at least 5 or so guns pointed at my head from the community, and they're saying, Amos, where's my question, bro? Where's my question, bro? So you know what, I just want to do at least 2 or 3 of them. So let's get it in there. I really want to start it off. We kind of addressed a bit of these already, so we're just going to start off with BRX. For those of you who do not know, BRX is a solid OriginTrail champion. He's been with us for years, millennia at this point. If you've needed help with something, you've very likely gotten help from BRX. So yeah, BRX has had a random question to the team. So we're just gonna kick that off right now. He says, could you provide us a rundown on the current network health, scalability, how much network activity are we expecting moving forward? And that pretty much closes out BRX's question. Now, I assume this question is strictly geared towards like V8, you know, like how we've just done the migration and the new node system. So I'm assuming that's kind of where he's like asking.
Yeah, we can maybe start with the scalability, because that's the one that we know most about. But obviously we cannot predict with certainty some sort of usage of the network in the future, but we obviously expect the usage to continue growing as it did previously. But what we've seen is some really nice numbers lately. So if I'm not mistaken, we went north of 50 million knowledge assets created in one day, which was quite a lot, and it's I believe 500x compared to last year's milestone. So that's pretty good. That was what we're aiming to do with V5 to achieve that several order of magnitude upgrade. And with that, as I mentioned, we saw also some growing pains. So we saw that particularly the big publishers, they were complaining about some problems that they've been seeing at this rate. And those were basically addressed in this month. In December, we had to go in and help, because when people want to use the DKG and they're having issues because they want to use it more, obviously that's something to prioritize. So for some period of about a week or so, there was relatively a lowered success rate on the DKG. And actually what turns out to be the problem is not the DKG itself, but rather the blockchains. Several different problems. I won't go deeper into the technical stuff here, but there's DKG is a multi-chain protocol, so each blockchain that it's connected to has its own particularities. And so that made it a little harder to figure out what exactly is going wrong, but we managed to successfully tackle this. So up to a point that these blockchains let us do it. But ultimately, the publishing success rate at higher publishing throughputs is now it can now be even higher. So we believe that we can unlock even more than this 500x with the current implementation. But however, as if I assume folks have been looking into the roadmap, and what has been announced at DKG Con is the future versions of OriginTrail, which aim to go even further. So we're basically going to be scaling even further with the approach of first introduced in V9 and then moving into DKG V10. That is going to further utilize the capabilities of the network edge. So the devices that are plugging in their resources basically into the network, and those resources being utilized.
I have to interrupt. I just have
jump,
to,
yeah,
because I think it's slightly walked over a little bit how important and beautiful it is to have the upgrades for the finalization of assets. This is a big deal. A lot of people, even at DKG Con, when we were creating assets, we wanted to see certain sorts of upgrades and implementations. So to have you come and say now that this is good, I think that the community should be very excited about this update. But feel free to go ahead with it with V10 and all that goodness. I just want to say that people should be excited about this.
Yeah, thanks, Amos. I mean, there's many exciting things on the roadmap for V10. I just mentioned one, which is, and it's maybe not even the main one, but scale is definitely part of it, which doesn't mean we won't be scaling V8 as it's currently deployed and still making the most out of it. But essentially, the most out of it on a longer term means the most out of the resources that are available in the network, because obviously, I guess it's kind of well known that AI takes a lot of energy in the sense of either GPU power, CPU power. Knowledge graphs also, they're not running for free. They do take a bit of a different hardware setup to be run well, but that also requires a lot of resources. So as we grow, as the DKG continues to go past more billions, we will start reaching some limits that others haven't even been reaching. For example, how much triples or statements or graph statements can you fit in one machine or one database? And so it is going to require some exciting network level sharding algorithms that are going to enable us to basically organize the DKG in a sensible way for data discoverability that improves scalability. It doesn't sacrifice the capabilities of the knowledge graph. That's going to be one really exciting element that comes in. But when you look at particularly the question about like publishing scale and so on, there's also, we expect to improve on the speed of it as well. So V8 introduced batch minting. You could basically publish thousands of knowledge assets in one transaction compared to previous one knowledge asset per one transaction. But you still have this overhead of minting. So you have to first mint NFTs on chain, and then you use them in the graph. And then this graph you store. So the order of events is very sensible, but it can be improved. You can even do something such as pre-minting. So you can create a bunch of identifiers, the UILs, in advance, and then you can use them to publish faster. So effectively, the kind of the biggest bottleneck here, which is the blockchain, is going to be also basically the DKG will become even less dependent on some elements and constraints of the blockchain, making it even more powerful without losing any of that capability that it has right now. So we expect a lot of interesting updates coming in the future versions. One also very interesting one that's very near on the roadmap is the notion of hyper-relational graph memory, which introduces the 2.0 version of DRAG. I know that sounds like a mouthful, but essentially it, in the simplest possible term, it enables to create even more contextualized graphs, in a way graphs about graphs, that make the power of connecting LLMs with knowledge graphs even better. So that's a huge improvement for the ability for LLMs to use the knowledge graph, but also an improvement in the sense of how you can as an engineer use it, and how the nodes can organize it for scalability. So it's going to be quite exciting, but I don't want to take this whole I guess there's other questions. I can dive into all of these updates as long as you want. They're very excited about all of them.
To be honest with you, I could always sit down and listen to some DKG stuff. So I'm too biased for that. So I won't share my opinion. I will just say we do have at least one more question. But honestly, the way you were going, you were kind of tackling all of them. So maybe I just let you continue to talk, or I'll just, all right, you know what? I'll just ask one question, and then wherever you go, we'll just go with it, because you really were tackling all of the questions one by one. So someone asked there, this is an anonymous question: when do you plan to close the touring phase? Below is the latest update from Branimir, and they said that this update was from September 2025. Is the touring phase closed, etc., etc.? So maybe you can talk about that, but then continue to talk about the network, because you were addressing most of the questions.
Yeah, sure. So I guess the question of Turing phase being closed is that we're out of the Turing phase. We're in the Metcalfe convergence phase. So I guess that's an easy one. There's one thing left to be done that I guess maybe it makes people think that it's not fully closed, but there's a set of rewards to be distributed as previously for the phase between the phase between the release of random sampling, which was 8.1, and 8.0. So I'm sure folks who have been in the community at that time know what I mean, but basically there will be very soon, in basically January next year, this will also be off the table. The table will be finished. But in terms of, you probably thought tuning, the tuning has been the tuning phase has effectively been completed, and therefore we're now in the regular phase of 8.2 plus, basically. So we're going to see some more releases there, but we're out of the tuning phase.
Okay, that perfectly answers that. Oh, we have one. You want to take a spin at it, Žiga?
Wanted to jump in with a few quite immediate things.
Okay.
I mean, obviously the network is growing in terms of the knowledge, but also in terms of how much of the protection collateral has been provided to the network. And currently, I think it's about 102 million people, million TRAC that is staked on the nodes. And we got questions, are we going to increase the threshold at which people can stake on the nodes? Oh, this mic really needs to get closer to me.
Right. Yes. So we discussed in the past, and we actually increased the threshold from 2 to 5 million on the nodes, and now it's gonna come to 10 million as we discussed. Basically, at the current level of the growth, this is going to, let's say, release some additional 100 million track of space on the nodes that are currently most performing. And this is, it's anticipated to happen with the somewhere around this epoch's end. Of course, details to be discussed, and so these are some of the immediate things that are going to be worked on the V8. So the V8 is still here, but we're approaching the V9 and then V10, as Branimir discussed, with new ways to introduce quicker, faster scalability, but not just scalability in terms of the knowledge throughput, but also in terms of how this knowledge could be effectively used via retrieval and reasoning and so on. So this is what I wanted to add. So there are some immediate things that are going to be done on the network, but overall, if you're interested in what's taking place after, I would encourage everyone to go to OriginTrail's roadmap and check what's going on. I think this is one of the concisest roadmaps that we came up with in the past 8 years, but it's also very packed. So it seems concise, but it's packed with meaning, because it introduces improvements on 3 layers: interoperability, integrity, and inclusiveness. And all of these 3 layers are like crucial to our ecosystem, as I described earlier. From the trust to integrity, inclusiveness, and so on. So some short-term things, but also some mid to long-term things that are going to improve the scale and also get more builders into ecosystem. And the cool thing is there's always tail end of applications that are being built, that are basically being launched, that are bringing more usage, and people are asking about the node health. In essence, we will always be pushing. Actually, the network growth is likely always to be basically pushing the limits of the nodes, so that the nodes will sometimes experience lower network health. But then, with new development plans, there is always a way to alleviate that pain, alleviate those health concerns on the nodes. And this is what's being introduced with the new roadmap post Genesis in the network, in the Metcalfe convergence phase. So I encourage everyone to look into those items, and I'm sure there's going to be plenty of questions. And next time when we meet on track or in Telegram, I see one of the questions is, when our founder is going to be back in Telegram. We're actually lurking around, and if there are any questions pertaining to, let's say, the exact points in the roadmap, we are definitely more than keen to take them on.
Absolutely awesome. I think there's only really one more question that has any sort of uniqueness, and this question revolves around intellectual property and the knowledge graph. It says, can you describe the mechanics of your knowledge graph and how it can be used by individuals to protect intellectual property, especially innovative projects in the crypto space? So this seems to be like a product implementation idea.
Which is great. I think there's in the way we'll be looking at intellectual property in the future is largely going to be dependent how machine readable it is, because that's going to be the interface through which we will be consuming most of the intellectual property. Especially, it might also come pre-processed for us, so that it's more tailored, more customized for whatever task we're doing. So that means that we have to create some primitives that allow AI-powered systems to consume IP in an efficient way, so that it does not create infringement, so that it does not create wrongful appropriation of pieces of IP that maybe someone else created, but rather is able to respect it and also is able to create financial systems or business models basically that can pay those IP holders what they're due. So if we go from the conceptual to more concrete, that means that if you have an AI system that you create, you launch a prompt at to do something or to provide you with some guidance or information or a response, that retrieval of relevant data or knowledge will come from multiple different directions. And the implementation of that is the best thing that comes to mind is the decentralized knowledge graph, because it allows you to go through multiple locations to figure out what's available on the network. But also once you find something, you're able to check the veracity. You can trust the source because you know what is the identity behind it. You know there's verifiability proofs that the particular piece of content hasn't been tampered with or changed. And because now you have all these primitives to know that you can find things, and then when you find them, you can make sure they're correct and that you can trust them and that your system can use it. You can also create, using the Rails, the basically monetization of such IP rights. And those IP rights, of course, aren't limited in modalities. Although knowledge graphs lend themselves nicest to text, it does not mean that you cannot use the DKG to anchor a piece of content that is maybe an image, a video, or even an audio type of a content. So the DKG is your perfect substrate to go play along the IP rights. If it's more Web3 native and there's an NFT implementation that's required, with the DKG you have it there by default, so it's a very easy kind of way of making any IP right Web3 native, because you have all the necessary tools already available. So I would welcome them to go for it and give it a go, give it a try. It's never been easier. The DKG Edge node is there for you, waiting to start playing, to start publishing, to start building some cool neurosymbolic stuff. And that can very, very much include also IP stuff.
And I'm also there to support you through the process. So
there you go. You got the best support in the world.
That's right. If you
none.
if you need any assistance, trust me, I'm in the Discord. I'm personally there to assist with anyone building any of these sorts of projects. And kudos to myself, because I'm actually the first person to anchor videos and assets IP to the DKG. Just saying. So
there you go. Yes, go for it.
So, but all in all seriousness, yes, the DKG is applicable to all of these different fields. It doesn't really matter if you have data, you potentially have knowledge. If you have knowledge, we're here for you, right? So it doesn't matter what industry or field it is, just bring it on. All right. So this actually could be the first time in history where we end our on track podcast on time within the hour. This is actually the first time since we've started doing these videos ever. So do we want to actually accomplish that record, or do we want to keep going on? Because we may have a bit more topics to finalize actually. Oh, and we do have one more topic to finalize, and that is around collators. Yes, I did drop this topic. So this is important for us to discuss. So I think we can dive into collators, and to close thing off, wrap a nice bow on it, I do think we can talk even so briefly about Amazon Neptune and Deep Prod and kind of just let it all out from there. So let's talk a bit more about the collator situation. And yeah, let's just dive into it. Whoever wants to take the reins, feel free.
Yeah, I'll just perhaps provide short thinking about the multi-chain growth of the DKG, which has been instrumental for at least a couple of phases of OriginTrail's development, when we got from Ethereum to some other chains. And it was an important step. And the multi-chain strategy is only getting, enhanced in the future, which also means that we're always on the lookout and listening to the users, to the publishers, as to where they want to publish. And, currently there's some evidence that certain chains are more scalable or faster and so on. But then there is also other element that we need to take into consideration, which is, where the actual users are and where's the biggest, perhaps pulse. And this is how OriginTrail with the, some other the ways to value the knowledge is entering new ecosystems in the future, and also seeing what could be done in order to advance the current ecosystems where OriginTrail is also present, including Polkadots. So one of the things that we are introducing are so-called truth-seeking algorithms, and these truth-seeking algorithms are also harnessing the power of tokenomics to signal basically the value of the knowledge. And this is where potentially lies one of the, let's say, evolutions or possible evolutionary directions of the neural web chain, which would also then entail, if this evolution is or direction is validated, that the token itself would be used to signal the value of the knowledge by staking the token in that way. So it's not a new idea. Those of us who've been following OriginTrail, staking on the keywords or staking on the knowledge assets, you would know that was introduced a few years ago, but never really gained traction. And this is kind of one of the possible directions that we're looking towards when we're talking about advancing staking on neural web chain from the current, let's say, at least theoretical position, which is collator staking. Why is that also important? Kind of to be able to evolve this into something more plausible and useful in the future is also it's also kind of the current standing of the Polkadot ecosystem, which is undergoing huge, some would even say tectonic changes. So we're keeping our eyes open and trying to understand where Polkadot will develop in the future and how we could use the primitives that Polkadot is going to be building in the future. And obviously these changes are also introducing something quite important to our ecosystem, which is the cessation of the so-called parent chain leases, as we've that was kind of one of the key ways to basically get OriginTrail ecosystem on Polkadot. So this is one very important tectonic change that is happening that we haven't really fully consumed. And there are some other changes in the Polkadot ecosystem which seem to indicate that Polkadot is moving a little bit more into a centralized direction by building, let's say, centralized applications on top of Polkadot at the expense of parachains. So we basically have some questions in terms of where the future lies for Polkadot, but at the same time we have a very, let's say, strong answer in terms of what OriginTrail ecosystem is going to do, and it's based on a very strong fundamental multi-chain fundamental that OriginTrail has built so far, and this multi-chain fundamental is just going to be strengthened as we include more chains and as we possibly focus on the chains that have even more usage, even more traffic, and so on.
Okay. And in fact, I'm not sure, Branimir, did you I'm unclear, did you say you had more to add on the topic of collators before we close this out? If not, we can talk a bit more about the Amazon Neptune and then kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I think Žiga covered it pretty well, but the point of diving deeper into collators is very tied to Polkadot, and so also in the sense of it being really the how to a means of the why of the whole idea, which is to support the knowledge graph, and especially support the ability to establish economic primitives in such a way that they are helpful towards growing the knowledge graph and growing it in such a way that this knowledge is useful. So it's not just some random stuff. And therefore, for example, what you will see in the roadmap, if you go a bit deeper, you will see something called knowledge conviction system, and a staking conviction system, and a publishing conviction system. So all these things basically heavily focused on making the DKG even more powerful from the perspective of inducing trust into the system, which further differentiates it from something like a centralized knowledge graph. So for example, right now you have a certain ability to understand how publishers in the DKG are having contributing knowledge to the network, and therefore you as a staker are going to it's going to be beneficial for you to stake on the nodes that are publishing, right? Because they're contributing. So it's a self-reinforcing mechanism that is beneficial for both the stakers and the publishers. And there will be basically improvements where if you stake longer, you're effectively prone to you're more convicted into the system, and therefore your signal is valued more. Therefore, you should get more as staking rewards. Similar for publishing, if you're committed, let's say, a large amount of track for a certain period of time, and that conviction is visible on chain, that is a positive activity for the ecosystem, and therefore that should also be beneficial for the publisher, and then at the same time for the staker, because the staker would see, aha, this node will go. And with that, the knowledge conviction system also to signal value and quality, and that is a very powerful area that we'll be talking about. So when we talk about that, the way we implement that depends on the chains underneath, and what kind of, it starts with the need, right? So what we're trying to see is where this brings value, and then based on that, we'll know exactly how to implement it, at least in this first version, and then iterate and grow with it, because there's not that many systems like this. Hint, there's zero system like this other than the DKG, so that we can learn from the others.
That's right.
We only learn from actually using it and seeing it in action and feeling the growing pains and all these things.
Yep.
And when you mentioned Neptune, that's for those of you who don't know, that's Amazon's centralized knowledge, basically graph database that is integrated with OriginTrail. So any enterprise can use it together with OriginTrail, and they're one of the most scalable ones. But they've actually grown out of BlazeGraph. They learned a lot in that sense, and we basically they're kind of like tech advisors in some way. So they're helping us scale and record really the graph in such a way that indexes and all of the necessary structures that enable quick retrieval are done the right way. Because at certain point when you get into billions, the standard doesn't help you that much anymore. It's all about experience. So yeah, it's great to have them as part of the ecosystem, and they're super excited to not just work with us, but also preach the story of OriginTrail further. So I'm very, very, I'm super glad that we got to this achievement, that this kind of experts are behind the idea.
Yeah, I agree. And again, I saw his presentation. It evolved over the years. It's slowly, and now then in the most recent iteration of his presentation, of the presentations, you just see the DKG, and now I'm like, yes, we are here. So I am very excited. Like, as these organizations just continue they're slowly waking up. Then they're seeing the power. These different government organizations as well too, government entities. They're slowly but definitely surely seeing the convergence of knowledge graph and AI. And I think this is something you had been championing, obviously, as a co-founder of OriginTrail, but not just in your technical capacity, but you've also been championing this perspective socially as well. You've been quite adamant, Branimir, about AI and knowledge graph. How these two intersect. We need this neurosymbolic ecosystem, and you not only talk about neurosymbolic ecosystems, like OriginTrail, you talk about neurosymbolic, I don't know if they call it neurosymbolicism, I don't know, whatever. But you talk about this as a generalized topic as well. Like, this is an industry, a thing that needs to become way more prevalent to everyone than it is right now. So honestly, even though in the industry itself, there may be some others who are like-minded, I think for the most of the people who aren't like immersed every day in this world, you're kind of the champion. You're the one that we see, talking about this stuff. You're the one that people see to mention this neurosim thing, so yeah, just more power to you, and congratulations, honestly, to you and the core team, everyone. Congratulations. So I didn't want to take up all the time. I pushed it over just by 10 minutes. Honestly, even this is great, because usually we're 45 or 30 minutes extra. So today this is Christmas come early for the OriginTrail community. All right. you guys can go party, you guys can go do whatever you need. But honestly, I had it was definitely a great DKG Con 2025. Just spectacular to see the hackathon projects also come to life and have my own hands in that. See that the DKG went from this thing that, enterprises store their wonderful data here, and then it moved from that to, oh no, now everyone can build useful, effective applications that solve issues that humanity needs. Now, this is a whole different level of DKG. This is the DKG uncapped, the DKG untapped, right? Now we can go out there and solve the world's problems for real. So I am just excited for the next phase of OriginTrail. This is personally, in all my years of being in the ecosystem, this is the most excited I have ever felt from an action perspective, that I could just go out there and do stuff with the DKG. I've actually built multiple things that I'm not ready to talk about yet, but there are things that it's just so usable, and I'm excited. All right. So overall, I feel very good. I hope you all feel very well. Is there anything you founders want to leave in closing? And then we could put a nice bow on this and say we've had a successful On TRAC podcast.
Yeah, I started it. I'll close it as well. I think it's I have this love-hate relationship with the feeling I'm feeling usually like at certain intersections, and I'm right here again. And that is the fact that you look at the path that's behind you and you say, okay, like, job well done, but then you figure out, man, you're only scratching the surface still. And what I've learned in 2025 with the AI revolution that's kind of unraveling here is that there's much more fun data that's outside of the internet as well, and the iceberg of public internet is just mostly shit posts, pardon my French. And if there's an order of magnitude more data available below the sea level, and that data is an order of magnitude more valuable, there's so much to unlock. And when we're talking about the marriage of knowledge graphs and neural networks, it's great that people are waking up to the strength of that, but I don't think it's fully grasping to the scale of requirement of the decentralized component of these solutions. And because only when you have the D in the DKG is where you can unlock that submerged amounts and you start connecting them together, and that is where really the magic starts to happen. Some of these organizations are only seeing one element of it still, and they're super, super excited because of what it unlocks for them. And I think that now when what is really becoming apparent is that we need more. We need much more. Internet scale is a great step to be at, but like there's a lot more beyond what we're seeing right now, and both from any possible angle that you can imagine, right? So V8 to V10 is improvement across every aspect of how DKG functions in order for us to be able to sustain that vision. And again, it's love and hate. It's hate because it's not easy. It's a lot of sweat and tears and occasional blood. But of course, it's I cannot think of any single other thing in the world that's more important or more rewarding to be working on, and nor better people to be working with. So I think it's a prime time for everyone to get excited and get on board and get working. It's a important time ahead, but we're ready for it.
Awesome. I really hope nobody's bleeding writing code, man. That's a lot of
metaphorically. Well, the tears and the sweat, I don't know, but the blood, let's keep it metaphorically.
Not just playing around. Listen, I'm excited for you, brothers, man. Congratulations. Žiga, you look like you have a little something to say. No? Are we good? Are we good?
Yeah, I think Tomaž already mentioned blood, sweat, and tears, and I'm just gonna add another one from the same author, which is united we swim, divided we sink. It's really important to keep to maintain a unity in the world that is very much diverging. Like we need to converge, and we need to converge, in our view, around very important topics like trust, inclusiveness, integrity, interoperability, because the world is going to be far worse off without initiatives like OriginTrail. We have important partners. More of them are joining, from corn to porn to more holy sectors, you know. Yeah, it's important we build Rails, and we build them together, and we thrive together. That's gonna be it's gonna be even more important in 2026 than it was up until now, to stick together.
Awesome. Well, listen, that brings us to the end of this On Track podcast. I thank you all for showing up today. I also thank the community for submitting questions. This is not the end. We are just getting started. I know we say that every year, but as you can see, the DKG continues to grow. And if it continues to grow, we stay right here and grow with it, right? So congratulations to the community as well. And let's stay tuned for the next On Track podcast episode. Have a great day, everyone.
Take care. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Cheers.
Cheers.